Welcome to the Life Is podcast, where creativity, culture, mindset, and intentional living come together through real conversation. I'm your host, Coy Brown. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, travelers, and visionaries who didn't stumble into a life they love, they built it. We go deep into how they think, how they reconstructed themselves, and what became possible on the other side. This is not just about what people have accomplished. It's about the internal work that made it sustainable. Because when you build from the inside out, life expands. Let's get into it. This week, I'm sitting down with someone who had to lose everything before he understood what he was actually capable of building. Chad Weller went from chasing an athletic career to getting swallowed up by South Beach nightlife, addiction, legal consequences, a near-fatal car accident, and a moment where prison was a real possibility. He chose differently. 17 years of sobriety later, he wakes up at 3:30 in the morning every single day. He has run ultra marathons and coaches some of the highest performing entrepreneurs, CEOs, doctors, and lawyers on the planet on how to build lives that do not collapse under pressure. His story is not about what he overcame. It's about what he discovered was possible on the other side of demolition. Here's what that actually looked like. Welcome to another episode of the Life Is podcast, hosted by myself, Coy Brown. And today we have another great guest, Chad Weller. And for those listening, Chad is a high-performance life coach, former professional athlete, keynote speaker, and 17 years sober, which is awesome. So congrats there, Chad, and also an ultra marathoner. So Chad, welcome to the show. I appreciate it. And most importantly, man, how are you doing?
Doing amazing today. Thank you. I appreciate being on the show. I'm excited.
Awesome. Same. I'm glad you're here and I appreciate the time. But before we get into anything, before we dive into it, if you could just tell people, who you are, where you're from, what you do in this world, and what really brought you up to this point now.
Yeah. High performance life coach and currently in Beverly Hills, California. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I've been out and about, left Ohio in 1996. So I've been
Okay.
traveling around the world, lots of life experiences, which led me really into the life coaching, where I'm sitting here today through a lot of different life experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll get into that today, but it's just, it's been an incredible journey. And, where I'm sitting now, I have the privilege of meeting amazing individuals. I've been doing this for around 12 and a half years, amazing individuals, and just,
Yep.
helping them habits, routines, getting unstuck, really allowing them to go to places they've never gone before. And it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
fun for me. It's part of my purpose and passion, and connecting with individuals is just like I'm here in the office early today because I'm super excited about who I get to work with. Obviously, being here on with you, but
Yes.
have an incredible, exciting day.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to talk about your work. So, like I said, you live it, you breathe it. You've been doing it for, over a decade at a high level with a great amount of people in different industries. So, but actually, before we even get there, right, I kind of want to take it back, before the coaching, before the sobriety, ultra marathons, right? Who were you as an athlete, right? You said you're from Columbus, so a little
Yeah.
Midwest connection there, but who were you before as the athlete, and what were you actually maybe chasing in that chapter of your life?
Yeah, really, as a younger age, I think all of us at a younger age are really wanting to understand what's our identity. It's very
Mhm.
confusing as we're growing up and developing. So,
Very true.
at a very early age, sports was my started to become my passion, and started really connecting to sports and falling in love, starting with soccer, basketball, and baseball. Developed a deeper love for basketball, and was going to go play college basketball. We were very successful in high school,
Yep.
winning states, and it was just a lot of great memories there. I always struggled with school, so with ADHD and ADD, so sports again was just gave me a lot of purpose. Excuse me, it gave me a lot of purpose, but it also again that identity. I was known as an athlete and a basketball player. Was going to go play college basketball, decided to go to the Ohio State University and
Okay.
just to explore there. And that's when I started exploring not necessarily sports, but the other aspects of
Right.
sports.
The other fun things.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So fraternities, really just the party scene, not
Mhm.
really having a direction. So I went from having this identity with sports and being an athlete to now landing in one of the biggest universities in the United States to
Yeah.
really feeling lost. And so
Mhm.
I had this small little anchor. I was modeling in high school. took with a small little anchor while I was doing some jobs.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and so yeah, I'd landed there, and yeah, things started to expand.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's very easy to get pulled in the other direction. I think for
Yeah,
any adult, any young person can understand, especially for sports, right?
yeah,
Being a former athlete as well. It's once you kind of get done with that, it's like, who am I? Right? You're
yeah,
kind of looking for that identity. Speaking of your modeling, though, I kind of want to dive into that. So as that modeling kind of grew, did that take you anywhere else? Did you kind of stay in Ohio? Or did that
yeah.
lead you anywhere else?
Yeah, yes, sorry. The modeling started out pretty funny. I was approached in high school actually, and my first photo shoot was actually in a newspaper. It was like
Oh, okay.
in,
Yeah.
in a small little newspaper right behind the coupon section, and so excited. I was like,
Yes.
oh, maybe this is the start of a career. Um, and then in college, I started getting a little bit, developing a little bit more skills, started to get seen a little bit more. And then college just was more partying. So I was just starting to get even more lost.
Yeah.
That's when I started really suffering. Depression started setting in, and um, you know, adding in alcohol on top of that, and some other drugs, it helped me or it enhanced my depression and feeling lost. So, yeah, the modeling, getting into like a spring break. I remember my agent said, "Let's go to Miami Beach and explore opportunities there, and see if there's a potential of you getting signed." And sure enough, I did.
Yep.
Coming from a small town to Ohio, landed in Miami Beach, just like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And went to
Yeah.
my first runway show, and I was like, "This is what I wanna do." So, um, landed with a big agency there, came back to Ohio, parents were like, "Yes, go pursue, this goal." And
Yeah.
yes, it took me to Milan, Italy. I did all the shows there at a very young age. New York City, did a lot of shows there, worked for the top designers, a lot of catalog
Mhm.
work, so just expanded about, I say, about 7, 8 years, even just
Okay. Yeah.
into the 10-year mark, but consistently for 6, 7 years, really working diligently in the modeling world where you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate the for the explanation there. And speaking of South Beach, right? South Beach, I was just there recently, but looking at your story as you shared, man, it definitely has a particular gravity to it, especially if
Yeah.
you're new to it. Um, and obviously, it sounded like it pulled you in a different direction on top of what you were just explaining from the depression and other alcohol and drugs. When you got there, maybe in that time period, what were you maybe actually looking for inside that world? Say, let's say Miami. Um, and what was that maybe that was the real need underneath all of it?
Yes. Going back to the sports, that identity, and there was and deep in there was this I've done all this work now. I can reflect
Yeah.
back. There's a lot of validation as you're an athlete, like great games, all these things.
Yep.
So, some of my looks were involved in that. I was called a pretty boy growing up and all these things. So when the modeling world came in, it was more like, okay, I love traveling. After moving to Miami Beach, I love traveling. So I can probably travel for free. This could be my job. But then
Mhm.
underneath that was an idea of being identity of being validated for, how I looked, or,
Yeah.
times how I walked, and, who I was hanging around with in South Beach in the nightlife industry. And, you know, hanging out with a ton of models from all over the world. So I created this different life, and I was just introduced to all these different things, and that became my new identity. And
Yeah.
that got a little rocky too, because there's a lot of pressure, a lot of people saying no to you. Everybody thinks the modeling career is just, you know,
Right.
happy and you're walking around working with Gucci and Prada, but it's not. You're getting no's, uh,
Wow.
and that can be very damaging to your ego. But it kind of fed my insecurities, and
Yeah.
really my depression. Um, yeah, so there is a lot of highs and lows.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you talked about, offline, kind of a near fatal accident, right? And I kind of want to move to that direction a little bit. If you
Yeah.
can walk me through kind of that near fatal accident, and kind of what followed, whether that's the legal consequences, the possibility of, prison, and then what was that experience of all of that, kind of hitting that wall before, you know, the change that we're gonna kind of talk about.
Yeah. The lead up to that wall was, making very poor decisions. And, I It's 2009. I ran into a 50-foot brick wall and almost lost my life. Now, this is with the 10th time that I almost lost my life. So
Mm,
this is where, I was cut out of the car. Uh, it was just a mess. I was arrested
yeah.
and facing a year in prison. So there was a lot of different things that were coming at me very quickly where uh, I had to make a decision quick. I was either going to live or I was going to die. And,
Gee.
back up, prior to that in the modeling career, you're introduced to nightlife in all these different industries, even in Milan and New York, there's this nightlife industry that we're exposed to. And so
Yeah.
it became very dark. I got addicted to drugs and alcohol. I attempted suicide 4 times. And so it became this very dark, heavy place. But on the outside, it looked great. Like I was like the mayor of South Beach, and everybody came to me for parties and
Yeah.
getting into the clubs. In speeding up to that accident, it was like I decided I wanted to live. And this happened in Ohio, so I actually went back to home to Ohio from South Beach because that was the last time I overdosed on drugs, and I was just scared for my life. But I was
Yeah.
still struggling with the drugs and alcohol, and then once I hit into that wall, it was just like, facing a year in prison kinda wakes you up a little bit. I didn't
Mhm.
find that out till about a month later. The crazy part about this is my lawyer told me to move back to South Beach because he knew
Wow.
like, Columbus wasn't uh, I hadn't been there since
Mm,
'96. So he
yeah.
moved me back to South Beach, and to get to South Beach, I only knew the nightlife. So I started bartending my first 3 years of sobriety. I was in the nightlife, hanging out with celebrities, running doors, VIP host. I look back and I was like, "How did I do that?" But I was going to a lot of AA meetings and I had a lot of
Yep.
support around me. Didn't go to prison, which was nice, but I was facing a lot of different challenges. Like my car, like the little things, like I couldn't drive for a year. My car was
Mm,
impounded. I had a lot of financial, um, you know, implements that happened when I got into the wall. So it wasn't just like I almost died, but there was just a lot
right.
of heaviness that came behind that.
Yeah. No, that's tough. It sounds like obviously you had that conversation with yourself, like, "Hey, I wanna keep living, right? There's
Yeah.
something here more I wanna experience." So, yeah, good for you to obviously come out of that. And speaking of kind of that tail there, you've been sober for 17 years, which is awesome. So folks who are listening, this is a great accomplishment for what Chad's done. Um, that decision, I actually looked it up. It's been made over 6,000 consecutive days, which is
Yeah.
wild. What has kept it real across that many days when the easiest thing to do is always available, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The I don't know. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to talk about this stuff. Sometimes
Yeah, take your time.
when you make life changing decisions, it's not like it's a light switch. And so we
No.
go through a lot of these dark places and very low points. I had 22 addictions. It wasn't just drugs and alcohol. There was a lot of other things in there.
Hmm.
And um, when you're trying to find your way, it gets very confusing on what direction because there's so many different paths
Right.
that you
What's
could choose.
real?
So it took me a minute to really decide to get sober and really what that meant. And I really look back, I never really enjoyed because I was never in control of the alcohol or drugs. It was just my way of escaping the pain and
Hmm.
depression and not having a true identity or that self-love and self-worth. So I was always extremely hard on myself, which you know I see it a lot. It causes us into the easiest way is to escape. So when I chose the path of learning about sobriety and learning more about myself, it was the hardest decision I ever made. And that brought me into, focusing on my health. And
Yeah.
that was completely the opposite of looking my best and going to
Hmm.
hang out with all the celebrities and taking 20 models, female models to dinner. And it was just like, I'm by myself. I'm alone. Like I have to go in now and go
Yes.
internally and see who I am. And
Do the work.
I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, like, so it was a big struggle. Still
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's hard, right? It's the reality. Like you said, you're by yourself, no one else, and you gotta face the music. Real quick, I want to tell you about something I created because honestly, I needed it myself. For years, I could visualize the life I wanted. I could talk about it, write about it, even teach pieces of it. But living it, that was different. there was always this internal friction. Like a part of me was trying to grow, another part of me pulled me back into what felt familiar. And I realized I didn't have a motivation problem. I had a safety problem. My nervous system didn't know how to feel safe inside change. So I wrote the self-discovery blueprint, not as another productivity guide, but as a way to create internal conditions where growth doesn't feel like a threat. It's grounded in neuroscience, polyvagal theory, belief reconstruction, and everything I've learned from studying consciousness and embodiment. It's for people who know there's more in them, who can see it, but haven't quite trusted themselves to step all the way in yet. And I'm giving it to you free. No email gates, no upsells, just a tool I hope serves you in the way writing it served me. Check the show notes, download it, come back to it as you grow.
Yeah.
Well, in that experience, it sounds like obviously you've done the work, right? And this is where we're going to get to. I want to talk about your internal, architecture and really what you've built and what you're continuing to build. Speaking of that, we spoke offline, and you wake up every day at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Every day, right? So for a year, and you've been done it for years, right? Through travel, through everything. I know most people looking at that would say that's a pretty strict discipline regimen, but my assumption is there's something deep that's happening there. What does that practice actually do for you internally that makes it like non-negotiable?
Yeah. It's how you start your day. And so
Yes.
working in the nightlife industry, I was always jealous of the people that had mornings. And so I worked very hard, and, I had about 50 jobs in the time span
Yes.
of 1996 to 2010, 2011, where I became an entrepreneur. And
Yes.
so that's when I really started dedicating myself I was working nights, riding a bike 2 hours to starting personal training. So I was
Wow.
sleeping. I remember sleeping at a park. I was eating canned beans. Like I was, on the verge of being homeless, but I was willing to do whatever it took to, um, you know, figure out a way.
Yeah.
And what I started learning and studying was all these very successful individuals that woke up early. And that's when I started training for ultra marathons. And so ultra marathons, which I started training for in 2010, around that same time, I ran my first 50K, but then right after that, I was training. That's more or less when I turned pro. I was training for Thailand. I was training for an ultra in Thailand. So I was 100K. That was a big race for me. So
Wow.
the development of waking up early was I was starting my runs at 11 p.m. and then starting to run until 2 a.m. and then 11:30 p.m.
Mm.
to 5 a.m. So I started running nights. And then what stuck with me is this. I heard somebody say it, like, I wake up at 3:30 every single day, and by 9 o'clock my day, I'm so far ahead of everybody.
Yes.
And I was just like, I want to be in that top 1%, even if it's just around this area. But it fed my dedication to running, and you know, running, 10 miles a week, all the way up to 222 miles a week throughout my years of training and running. But that was backed by discipline, by choosing to
Yeah.
get uncomfortable. And this is where I really started to find my truth, like my identity of like, I'm capable of doing so much
Mhm.
more, but that's going in. That's just
Yeah.
pushing through and not wanting to give up.
Man, 222 miles. Definitely mental, right? I think you definitely had this internal shock from it sounds like this emotional disruption of like, I'm doing the complete opposite and I'm staying committed to it. Um, just my own little side question. Like, what happens on the days when, something tries to interrupt it? And is there maybe a certain way or maybe tactics? I would say tactics, but maybe things you do just kind of hold the commitment if, things try to disturb.
It's a planning. I have
Yeah.
systems in place. I fell in love with my systems,
Yeah.
which helped me create these habits. So the systems and the habits become the non-negotiables, and that becomes the. I'm looking at my. I write down my morning routine every single day. When I start the whole 10 steps of it, I write it down again on the right side. I've been running for
Mhm.
5.5 years every day straight. But there's all these challenges that I like to create with myself. And then it starts with the evening time. So I lay out everything. The old version of me, if I didn't have a sock out or I couldn't find a sock, I wasn't running. I was going back to bed. So I have this like,
Right, right.
the subconscious of like, I can do it tomorrow or later.
Yep.
Once I started working on that relationship with myself and developing these habits and creating these small little systems of just wake up, thank you for today, 3, 2, 1, go. And it's making my bed, starting my routine, the meditation, the breath work, the journaling, and just getting out, running, going to the gym, practicing yoga. It's getting ready for your day, planning your day. It's all these that I've integrated. I love teaching, but
Yep.
the routines and the habits have become, with the practice, is the non-negotiables. It's like going to the gym. You're getting prepared for a game. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not going to go to practice. You're going to go to practice. It's a non-negotiable. That's how I treat every single day. I take that athletic mindset. I retired from ultra running in 2018, 2019, but I took with me all the habits and started this. Uh, I want to be persistent, that resilience, that emotional
Mm-hmm.
stability and resilience. And that's what I focus on every single day. It's not easy. I don't talk about doing easy and comfortable, but it
Yeah.
goes back to that day where I decide to live or I was going to keep partying, dying. I still connected. That's my anchor to getting uncomfortable because that was the hardest decision I ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. Just hearing you, man, I love there's this like undertone of drive, of commitment to like this almost spear to be excellence, right? That's what I hear when I hear you speak. It's like excellence. I want to be great. So I love that you have those systems in place because it keeps, things easier, per se, to stay on track. I want to actually move to your coaching, right? Because you use a lot of inner child and kind of nervous system recalibration, as your core tools. For someone who's never, encountered those frameworks, what are you actually trying to move or change in a person, when you work at that level?
Yeah, I feel once somebody comes in and works with me, we have a breakthrough session. We meet, we make sure we're energetically connected,
Yep.
but we're focusing on the foundational work, I call it, within the first, round of coaching, first couple weeks of coaching. Is that's the routines, create that morning routines, the habits. That's the foundational work. And then we start to expand because within that high performance coaching, it's personal development, business and career, relationships,
Hmm.
mindset, and it really helps us establish this depth and starting to expand our energy. Because from my experience, you heard me from before, I stated that I had to go inward. I had the opportunity to go inward and see what I was capable of, and that's what I guide my clients to do. I don't have a
Right.
workbook. Everything's tailored per client. And so as we get into it, if they're opening and expanding, they're introduced to the deeper work, the emotional stability, and a lot of individuals are open to the inner child workup, which I've been doing for around 10 years. But that's more or less just going in and learning more about your upbringing, your traumas,
Hmm.
and how to like the forgiveness and the acceptance around that. And it's part of my healing and it's part of me being able to share my experience, but the depth to my experience. Cause maybe somebody's like, oh, 3:30 and the
Yes.
routines and everything. Again, that's the foundation. That's the non-negotiables. But where do you go from there?
Yep.
It's like you can run 10 miles, but where do you go from there? You can run 20 miles. Where do you go from there? So for me, it's just like I want to keep climbing to different summits. I may reach one summit, but I'm going to look around. There's another
Right.
summit. And that's the
Yep.
depth. We can all go in and do the work, but it is challenging. And a lot of people, including myself in the beginning, got scared. I was like, hell no. I don't want to go in and I don't want to start this healing and go back to the age of 6 and start to explore this. But I came up, I had the courage and I'm still learning a lot, especially as a high performance coach. I'm learning a tremendous, I put in a lot of work. I've been working with my coach for 13 years. I put
Yep.
in a tremendous amount of work on myself that I get to share with my clients.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you mentioned I think the under I guess lining thing there is really just that connection, getting comfortable right with your client, you as a coach, because once you have that relationship, that foundation set, to your point, right, then you can branch off into getting more different avenues, deeper core trainings and teachings that really, as your point is made, get to inside.
Yeah.
But it's got to be you got to have the connection, right? You got to have the trust. That's huge. You mentioned your coach. That's where I was going to go next, right? So you've had your own coach for 13 years. Right, someone who coaches others at the highest level, still has a coach. What does that say about what you believe about how human beings actually sustain change over time?
I learned through the experience of doing it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when I always refer to climbing. sometimes when we get a lot of times when we go start climbing to this summit, this goal, uh, we our subconscious in our past can pull us off with self-doubt, self-worth,
For sure.
trusting and believing, so it'll pull us off. For me, what I've learned of doing, and she's the reason why I'm sitting here today as a high performance life coach, is just having that support and that teammate and being able to talk through my struggles and being validated, seen, heard, and
Yep.
understood and safe within the relationship that we've developed. And she knows everything about me more than anybody that has ever met me, even my folks.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's to have a teammate. You look at, all the professional athletes, they have coaches. I know the coaches have coaches.
Yep.
Uh, therapy is a great. I love therapy. And so it's like I'm always curious of how I can improve and what's out there and utilize.
Absolutely.
That's why coaches and therapists and all because we get to explore and work on ourselves because if we don't work on ourselves, you change nothing, nothing changes.
Yep. Yeah. Key things that kind of popped out, right? Safety, being safe.
Yeah.
And I think myself, even internally, I had to learn to move through chaos, like being safe through chaos, right?
Yes.
So that's a big thing you said, safety and exploratory, right? Being able to explore. Once you feel safe, now we can explore. Now we
Yeah.
can get deeper. Speaking of your coach, actually a question for you, right? Um, what has your coach maybe seen in you over the last 13 years that you could not see in yourself?
Oof. I don't even know where to start with that one. The just my commitment, and as you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it goes up and down, and my first line of work was a running coach. So as I was training for
Hmm.
marathons, ultra marathons, I was teaching people how to run. I studied running, the mechanics, the science behind running, the form, all these technique.
Yeah.
And so once I started my own business with the running coaching, I got tired of running. It was like Forrest Gump, when he has the beard, he's running all over and he
Yeah.
has all the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
behind. He's like, I'm tired. I think I'm going to go home
Right.
now. That was my end of my running career, which led me into
Right.
meeting my coach, into life coaching. But I use a lot of those tools. But I would say, and we've had this conversation a few times. Each year we do more of a reflection, but
Hmm.
my resilience and the courage to do what's hard because as entrepreneurs, even just waking up and doing what I'm doing, you got to understand how to ride the waves, the ups and
Yep.
downs, moving away from the uncertainty, which still creeps in of like, I'm going to lose everything. Same with the racing. I'm not going to make it. You start to the
Mhm.
100-mile race, you get to that starting line, even just making the decision to go run a 100-mile race and climb
Yeah.
30,000 feet and go to another country, making that decision, I feel, is harder than going through the race because there's this commitment. So she brings that up a lot when I'm going through this inner child work or I'm really struggling. The other day, I was in this just super stuck and uh,
Hmm.
within my own triggers, and I find myself there a lot still to this day, no matter how much work I've done. But always reminds me, like, you have the power, connect to your power, and just remember who you are. And then that's my
Love that.
opportunity to come in and practice those affirmations and the gratitude
Yep.
and connect to my inner self.
Before we keep going, if what Chad just shared about the hidden fractures beneath high achievement is landing for you, working with him directly is how you address it. Whether you are a CEO, an entrepreneur, or a leader privately carrying the weight of performing a life that doesn't feel fully yours, go to the link in the show notes and reach out directly. This is the work. Come be a part of it. I love that. I love that. And for those who are listening too, or will see this on YouTube later, like I hope they caught what you said is that you still go through these things, right? You're not a perfect, human. There's still triggers, um, even at this level. So I just want to make sure they caught that. But no, great answer. I think it's important, like you said, to have the coach to keep you going. And just hearing you too, Chad, I think resilience and commitment, you know, spew out of you. You're committed to the end result and the resilience to back, bounce back and get back in there to finish the job. So very, very on point.
Appreciate
Speaking
that.
of your coaching too and your vision, right? Kind of who you serve and what you're also building. You work with entrepreneurs, right? CEOs, doctors, lawyers, really people from every angle you would think on the outside are succeeding, right? External measure of succeeding. What is the most common fracture, right, or fragmentation you find underneath the surface of someone who looks like they have it all together?
Yes, and the individuals, the high performers, the ones that come and meet me, no matter what their title is,
Mm-hmm.
the individuals that decide to choose that first step to come to meet me because they relate to my website or my story that I share. I'm very vulnerable,
Yes. Yes.
and there's an instant connection there of trust because I am very open. I do these podcasts. I share my stories. Uh, so that vulnerability invites vulnerability, and I feel that's the true human connection is vulnerability because then we're able to allow people in. And so that's really that simple. When somebody, I can't sit here and say there's one or two things that somebody's coming to see me for, but
Correct.
it's just opening the door so we can go in and see like what's under the hood. Like
Mm-hmm.
how are they treating themselves? Are they prioritizing themselves, or is it career, or is it their kids, or it's
Correct.
their family, or it's their mom? A lot of people, we all as humans tend to want to go out and take care of others. Why? Because it's easy to take care of others and leave ourselves behind. And when we leave ourselves behind, we have time with ourselves and we're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, who am I? No matter what age you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's where people come in. That's my work. That's my responsibility to get them connected to who they are, their truth, their authentic self. But that
Yep.
starts with prioritizing yourself, then your family, and then career. So it's just restructuring everything. And that is the most amazing, beautiful thing that I get to see in humans is that psychology of just like, oh, I exist. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can prioritize myself, and it's
Yes.
uncomfortable, but I get that. I was uncomfortable too because it was so easy to say, "Hey, I got you, I got you, I got you." Even with my work today, that's why I have my coach because I can make it about everybody else. My wife knows this too. I can make it about everybody else, and then I leave myself, but then I go right back to the old behavior patterns of that depression, loss, like, who am I? What's my identity? The imposter syndrome. I'm sitting here today, like, why am I on a podcast? Like,
Yep.
am I deserving for somebody to hear my story? I'm a piece of shit. Like, but then I work
Yeah.
through that. I have the tools and
Yes.
techniques to just like ground myself. Like, you're okay. You're safe. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You have everything you need. Like, Weller, you're good.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Once again, resilience,
Yeah.
resilience, and having the self awareness to get back on track.
Yeah.
Like you can spot the trigger, right? You can kind of break down that trigger and then get back into alignment. So
Yeah.
yeah. And you kind of answered my other question too. Is there any specific, patterns? But it sounds like really it's just like you said, getting back to yourself. You exist, you matter, right?
Yeah.
Having attention to yourself and understanding who you are more. So great, great answer.
Yeah.
You also speak, Chad, at prisons and at corporate conference in the same kind of the same season.
Yeah.
Um, that's usually, a pretty unusually wide range of rooms to carry kind of the same message, right? From
Sure.
prisons or prisoners there, and then also kind of corporate America there. What does it require of you to find out or to find um, just the through line or the thread that lands in both environments?
Yeah. That's a great question. So
Yeah.
the environment of, giving back to prisons, jails, rehab that's the relatability on me. And I'm welcoming in people being extremely vulnerable, welcoming into people, sharing my story of like the non-negotiables have got me to here. That
Yeah.
decision, the choices I make every single day has got me to where I am, being able to have the privilege of speaking to you. So that's more or less
Okay.
I get a lot of questions about how do I choose that? How do I work through the pain? And so there's a lot of relatability there with that connection in some ways. And then as we move through, I speak to colleges and getting on stage with different charities. It all fluctuates. I have that diversity, the
Yep.
variety in there. And so when I move into corporations, working with high executives, CEOs and small groups or even larger groups, it's more about the systems. It's about the habits. It's around the, focusing on the goals, reverse engineering. It's about connection, the
Hmm.
communication. What is true leadership? And so that is what I help individuals in that world is that development, that personal development. But again, it all comes back to how you take care of yourself and how you show up for yourself. You show up for others. But a lot of people in that higher levels, it's just that's their priority.
Yep.
And you get caught up in that priority. What's the sustainability? And the sustainability is the burnout. That's the wall. That's the crash. So on my opportunity with that world
Point.
is there isn't a crash. There's clarity, there's certainty, there's goals, there's ups and downs. How do you embrace that and embrace the challenge? But it's the work. It's not
Yes.
the work, it's the work.
Mm, man, spot on. Love the answer, man. I love how you kind of manufacture, if you will, depending what you got, what lever you're going to pull, depending on what environment. But I
Yeah.
mean, there's a common thread. All like you said, all no matter what room you're in,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of which one you want to pull and what relates. But man, good answer.
Okay.
My next question for you, Chad. You're writing a book, right? You're writing a book that blends your personal journey, which we've been kind of talking about, with client stories and methodology. I tripped on this last time on other podcasts.
Me too.
Uh, but what is the one thing you most want someone to walk away understanding after reading it? You know, maybe not the information, but really the internal shift that you're trying to, convey to them.
Understand what they're capable of and
Mm,
and the ability to get uncomfortable and do what's hard and creating that relationship with yourself through discipline. For me, discipline is the highest form of self-love and respect because you
yep.
are choosing to do what's hard. I always say the hardest part of our day is getting up.
Yeah.
And especially
True.
for me, like I never want to get up that early. I don't, but I choose to. Like I get
Hmm.
my mind in the morning or in the evening. It's just like I'm excited to get up. So I teach a lot of that. Like this is hard work. I'm doing my 10-step routine every day because I get to. I don't have to, need to, woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's no longer a part of
Yeah.
who I am. It's I get to, I choose to. And so that impact leaving a stage or a session and introducing that in the book and those different strategies and methodologies and techniques around that, it's simple versus easy. And once you start practicing every
Mm,
single day, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's what they lead with. And they create an impact. It's not only with themselves, but their families, their kids. I see families, mothers and fathers. I do relationship coaching too. They come in, they're sitting
yep.
down with their kids and they're practicing the gratitude, going around the table,
Yeah. Yeah. I love
teaching
it.
them about like little breathing tips while they're in school before a test, like all these things. So it starts to spread. And so it's not just with one individual, they see the feel the impact and they share it with friends and colleagues. And it's just beautiful. And it just starts because it starts with my coach and other people that mentor me. And so it's just spreading, it's just connecting. And that's what the environment that I love teaching people. It's you do the work, you're also a teacher. You can also
Yep.
be a coach in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And just like you said, the perspective that you get to choose to, right? Like changing that internal perspective or that framework or how your disposition, like that's huge. Um, just and everything else is downstream to change that. So awesome. As we'll talk later, we'll make sure to get that in the show notes to make sure they can stay in touch with you there for
Yeah.
your book. But speaking of building a team, right? Building a team of coaches, right? Certified under your methodology for someone whose work is right deeply impersonal, built from your own survival and recovery. What does it require, um, really, to trust other people to kind of carry that forward? Right, it's kind of like your own torch, if you will. What does that maybe require of you?
They're me building trust within themselves to share their vulnerability, their stories.
Hmm.
So my technique is my technique around, the different habits and the accountability and all these factors that come into my methodology. But I teach them the structure, but
Yep.
I'm connecting with coaches that want to create similar impact through being authentic, being true to
Mm,
themselves, because I don't want somebody to take what I'm doing here in my story and so
yeah.
it's the structure, it's my systems, it's the implementation, but it's also that connection energetically, which is that's why we have this privilege of coaches to sit in front of people is to guide them through life experience. Yes, the certifications and all that,
Mhm.
that's wonderful, and all the guidelines that we abide by, which is amazing. But for me to have that connection with the coach is just having a connection, building that relationship as we would do with our clients, because it is for me, it's an environment where there's just leadership, but it's leadership within them. So it's empowering them to bring out the
Hmm.
best in them, which therefore carries out and empowers the clients to bring out the best in themselves. So it's just this, it's it's energy. It's just moving
Yeah.
energy.
Quick pause. If you're an entrepreneur, a business leader, or an executive running an organization under extreme pressure, Chad's high performance coaching is exactly what you need. He does not just talk about discipline, he helps you build the internal architecture that keeps your leadership from collapsing when it matters most. Go to the link in the show notes and reach out directly to start the conversation. As I
Yeah.
say, it's a circular
Yeah.
kind of ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
The flame gets farther and farther, bigger and bigger as the impact, as the vulnerability opens, right? The connection and doing the work. So awesome. Um, as we kind of hit the exit here, I got a couple questions for you here, Chad. But looking at your kind of your whole arc, right? You went from South Beach, right, to addiction, near fatal accident, the possibility of prison, 17 years, right, of sobriety, ultra marathons, coaching to the highest performers on the planet, speaking globally, right, and building methodology that you're now certifying other coaches in. Of all that being in mind, what do you know now about human beings, or what human beings are actually capable of that you could have not have known before you lived it?
It's simple identity.
Mm-hmm.
We all can, when you do this work and you share your stories and the vulnerability, it's developing this identity of their truth and who they really are. That's
Yeah.
going inward. We can focus on all of this, which tends to bring us in that self doubt, not feeling worthy of certain things, even if you're at a high level. It's like, or we're just focusing on different things. But the environment internally really allows us to escape less and focus on more of where you want to go and how to get there. And having fun doing it. A
Mm,
lot of people may be listening to this and like, "Oh, this sounds awful. What time do you wake up?" There's all these extreme things, and people
yeah.
will be like, "He's an extremist. I can't meet him." No,
Mm,
it's having fun doing it. My wife and I work out. We have an incredible relationship. We travel all over. We have a blast. We have a lot of hobbies, tennis. I love
mhm.
surfing. And there's so much more to life than, my routine. But that's my practice. That's what brings me happiness and joy because
Correct.
right here is all the drugs and alcohol. And I think about it, it's still there. It's
Mhm.
suicide, it's depression. Doesn't mean I don't go in there. I don't choose to do any of that stuff, but I still walk through that door and I'm less curious because I know how it's going to impact me and others. So I'm working on staying on this side and just working on, okay, where do I want to go? And how can I have fun today? Like I woke up today,
Mhm.
my affirmations like have fun today. This is today. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Have fun today. Do the work. Enjoy doing the work because it takes me to places I've never been. And my wife, she's incredible. She's an actress. She's an author. She's
Yes.
shooting a movie. Like, and to see what she's doing is a blast. We live in the middle of Hollywood, Beverly Hills. And so it's just bring in all this energy. I
Yeah,
spent the
yeah.
majority of my life focusing on what I didn't have. Now I get to focus on what I do have.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of it's, in embodiment, right? Like you said, this presence, the energy, the affirmations, you're getting
Yeah.
into it in body today. And I love
Yes.
what you said, if someone caught it, is like, stop worrying about maybe the negative, right,
Yeah.
behind you, like escaping, but
Yes.
where you wanna go, right?
Yeah.
Locking on that target and get excited about what that could be.
Yeah.
That's the exciting part, and then be
Yeah.
present in today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but right now in this moment.
Yes.
How can I enjoy today? So that's what I felt the energy,
Yeah.
and you're talking about your affirmations, but so true, so true. I love it. All right, so for someone listening right now, right, maybe they feel caged, right, by addiction, by fear, even by identity that no longer fits them, right, or by the weight of performing a life that does not fully feel like theirs. What would you say to that person that's listening or looking for um, that advice?
Get uncomfortable, take that first step and meet somebody you're connected to, be it a mentor, a therapist, a coach. A lot of people are in the AI world saying that
Mhm.
there's a lot of great information, which is great information. The human connection is super powerful. I read books, I listen to books, I can listen to Tony, I can listen to Atomic
Mhm.
Habits all day long. but you're listening, but are you really taking action? And if you're taking action, is that a week? Is that 2 weeks? Or have you been doing it
Mhm.
for 8 years? I've been doing my routine for 8 years because I have my coach and because I have that support. And so that's why there's these therapists and again, coaches around you, because there's that human connection for that accountability of like, okay, we're going to create this life for you, not my life for you, but let's work on the consistency because then that consistency is the confidence. And then you
Mhm.
open up, you start removing the things that you are in your way, which is the
Yeah.
self-doubt, focusing on the things you don't have, and then you start creating a different belief system. So having a teammate, just like work, you have a leader, you have somebody higher ups. That's why they have higher ups. So you can ask them questions. They could teach you things. That's what a coach does. That's what a therapist does. Therapists listen and they have, great advice in their clinical world. But, there's a lot of different coaches out there, females, males, all over the world. It's an incredible industry. Meet somebody you energetically connect to and get uncomfortable. Make that first step. Explore it. That takes courage. It's not for
Mhm.
everybody, but that small percentage of people, I'm proof.
Yeah.
There's proof within. You go to my website, watch some of the testimonials, read some testimonials, go meet other coaches. They have testimonials, they have life experience. There's opportunities of free calls. Mine's a complimentary call. Like there's all these open doors. Go through one or
Exactly.
don't.
Yep. The choice is yours. Yeah. I mean, what you said was perfect. Like, do the action, right? Or for some people, action may seem too goaly, but maybe it's the plan or the activity, whatever it is. But do it, right?
Yeah.
There's a great quote as you were speaking there, Chad. It says to know and not to do means not to know, right? You're not applying information, right? To where your
Yeah.
point. If you can read it, listen to it, do it. Find
Yeah.
someone you connect with, you resonate with, and find a mentor, find a coach, right?
Yeah.
And do the work, right?
Yeah.
So awesome message.
Yeah.
My last question for you, well, second last question is where can people find you, Chad, work with you, and follow the book?
Yeah. Chadwiller.com. Very simple. Chadwiller.com. All my information's there. Reach out and connect with me. Phone number, website,
Hmm.
everything's there. Keep it really simple and doors always open.
Perfect. I love it. What we'll do, as I always mention, I'll make sure to get down the show notes for those who are listening, so they can get in touch with you, want to work with you,
Amazing.
and just stay connected, to what
Yeah.
you're doing and believe in your work.
Amazing.
But to my point here now, my last question, right? Kind of the famous question on the podcast here is what, obviously, we're on the Life is podcast. So, if I say life is, and you had to fill in that last part of that sentence or phrase, what word or maybe phrase that you have would you fill in on the back end?
Life is worth having fun and
Hmm.
enjoying the process and falling in love with the process, but falling in love with yourself and that self appreciation. That's where life becomes enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I love that answer. It is worth it. I think those who are listening, soon to be watching, hopefully adapt the same mindset. But Chad, I want to say, as we do wrap up here, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to get on here, just all the value you have, the knowledge, and just the energy to share with everyone. So thank you so much for being here. And from here, we'll let you get back to doing great things.
Yeah. I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. I've been following you. I discovered you on LinkedIn. And
Yes.
so I've been watching your shows. You're incredible. Your questions, your curiosity, what you're creating outside of this. So I feel that what you're doing is creating a big impact on people too. So much respect to you. And
Yeah. Thank you.
uh, it's an honor to be, spending some time with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll let you get back to it, Chad,
All right.
and all the
Likewise.
best.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. What Chad showed us today is that the most dangerous cage is not the one built by circumstance. It is the one built by the beliefs you formed about yourself before you knew any better. He hit the wall that could have ended everything, and he chose to treat it as the beginning instead. 17 years, 3:30 in the morning every day, ultra marathons, a coaching practice built on the exact work he had done on himself to survive. This is not a redemption story. That is a construction story. And the building never stopped. I'll see you in the next episode. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Life Is podcast. If something in this conversation landed for you, a shift in perspective, a reminder, or something you needed to hear, don't let it stay there. Take it with you, put it to work. If you're ready to go deeper, I have tools built specifically for this journey, a self-discovery blueprint and a diagnostic designed to show you exactly where your foundation needs attention. Links are in the show notes. And if this episode added value, share it with someone who's building, leave a review, help us grow this community of intentional people doing real work. Remember, fulfillment isn't found, it's built. Life is art in motion, and you are the artist. Until next time, keep building.